Intelligence. ISC Class 12. Part 1. Definition. According to David Weschler, intelligence is a global aggregate capacity of an individual to think rationally, act purposefully and deal effectively with his environment. Theories of intelligence. Factor theories. Provides structure of intelligence in terms of factors or constituents. Cognitive theories. Theories focusing on intellectual process, patterns of thinking that people use when they reason or solve problems. Factor theories. Two-factor theory, Charles Spearman. Primary mental abilities, L. Thurstone. Structure of intellect, J.P. Guilford. Cognitive theory. Triarchic theory, Robert Stenberg. Theories of multiple intelligences, Howard Gardner. Fluid and crystallized intelligence, Raymond Cattell. Two-factor theory. It is a factor theory of intelligence. In 1927, Charles Spearman proposed this theory. It employed a statistical method called factor analysis. Factor analysis is a technique involving correlating coefficients in a way of identifying groups of abilities or behavior on traits that are related to one another. Spearman showed that intelligence consisted of a general factor, G, factor, which is shared with all intellectual abilities, and some specific factors, S factors, which is shared with none. General intelligence is a sort of mental energy, running through all the different tasks. It includes mental operations which are primary and common to all performances. Specific abilities makes an individual able to deal with particular kind of problem, and are contained in S factor. G factor involves everyday life activities which comes to us unknowingly and effortlessly, and everybody has G factor, but the intensity may vary, whereas S factor is our ability in specific domains of our life. Excellent singers, architects, scientists and athletes may be high in general factor. But in addition to this, they have specific abilities which allows them to excel in their respective domains. Suppose, an individual performance in Hindi is partially due to his general intelligence and partly to some kind of specific ability in language, which he might possess, i.e., G plus S1, or mathematics. His performance will be due to G plus S2, in drawing, G plus S3, in chemistry, G plus S4. Thus the total intelligence will be G plus S1 plus S2 plus S3 plus S4. Criticism. Spearman and considered only two-factor of intelligence, but there are many more. According to Spearman, every job requires some specific abilities, however, the overlapping and grouping give birth to certain common factors. For example, doctor and a nurse may have certain common factors. Primary mental abilities. It is a factor theory of intelligence. It is proposed by L. Thurstone. It is also known as group factor theory. He worked on a test of primary mental abilities and concluded that certain mental operations have a primary factor in common, and this primary factor gives these operations a psychological and functional unity, which differentiates these from other mental operations. These mental operations constitute a group factor. Every group factor of mental operations have their own primary factor. There are a total of 56 tests and there are 9 such group factors. 1. Verbal factor, concerned with comprehension of verbal relations, words, and ideas. 2. Special factor, involved in any task in which the subject manipulate an object imaginatively in space. 3. Numerical factor, ability to do numerical calculations, rapidly and accurately. 4. Memory factor, ability to memorize quickly. 5. Word fluency factor, involved whenever the subject is asked to think of isolated at a rapid rate. 6. Inductive reasoning, ability to generalize through specific examples. 7. Deductive reasoning, make use of general statements. 8. Perceptual factor, ability to perceive objects accurately. 9. Problem-solving abilities, solve problems independently. Limitation. The limitation of this theory is that it discarded the concept of a common factor. Structure of intellect. It is the factor theory of intelligence. It was proposed by J.P. Guilford. It is also known as tridimensional model or cubical model. He conducted several tests and concluded that any mental process or intellectual activity of human being can be described in terms of 3 basic dimensions of parameters, i.e., operation, content, product. Operations, way of processing the information. Cognition, recognizing and discovering. Memory, retaining ability to store information over time. Memory, recalling, retrieving stored information when needed. Divergent production, producing a variety of solutions or ideas to a single problem. Convergent production, producing a single best idea or solution to a problem. Evaluation, taking decisions about the nature of gathered information, whether it's good or bad, positive or negative. Content, type of information involved. Figural, visual, properties of stimuli, we can experience through visual senses, for example, color, shape, size, etc. Figural, auditory, properties, the stimuli we can experience through auditory sense, for example, voice and sound, symbolic numbers, letters, symbols, design, etc. Semantic, the meaning of words, ideas, etc. Behavioral, the actions and expressions of people. Product, the results obtained through operations. Units, individual pieces of information which are limited in size, for example, a single number, letter or word. Classes, group of units of information related to each other on the basis of some common characteristics involved in a higher order concept. For example, men and women together makes people. Relations, a connection between concepts, systems and ordering or classification of relations, transformational, altering or restructuring, intellectual content. Implication, making inference from separate pieces of information. Principles. Reasoning and problem-solving skills require 60 distinct activities, the operations of divergent and convergent production. Memory skills require 60 distinct activities, 30 for memory recording and other 30 for memory retention. Decision-making requires the evaluative skills of operation, which includes 30 distinct activities. Linguistic skills requires cognitive operations, which includes 30 distinct activities. Thus, Guilford model has 180 factors. Limitations. According to his model, there is no single test to measure one intelligence and number of tests are required, which is time-consuming. Thank you.